So why do we go on this investment journey? I'll tell you, for me is it's freedom. And maybe not the freedom that everybody thinks about, but freedom from work, freedom to make choices. It just alleviates some of the pressures that come to do with finance or money. Stick around. I'm going to talk about that today. I'm also going to talk a little bit about some Bitcoin stuff. I'm going to delve into what I think is my favorite stock right now and a few other items. Should be a really good video.
Want to make your money work harder? Enjoy another video with Adam Kahn, the rational investor, on stocks, real estate, and crypto. Subscribe now for your weekly dose of investment insights and hopefully learn a thing or two.
Hello, my YouTube friends. Man, I feel like I'm really on a roll lately. I'm doing a bunch of videos, or at least I feel like I have. Maybe I haven't done as many as I think. Um, Before I forget, if you could do me a favor, if you could smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. Maybe I said it backwards. Sometimes I mix those up. Let's see. Hit that like button, smash. No, I think I had it right the first time. I really appreciate the support. Does a lot for YouTube's algorithm. It goes a really long way on the channel. I really don't plan to sell anything on here or do anything outside of just chatting and whatever else. So if you could do me that favor, I'd really appreciate. Also, that being said, keep in mind, as always, this is not financial advice. This is just things that I like to do and what I think about. Please, for your own financial decisions, do your own research, reach out to your own financial advisor, and make your own decisions. Don't listen to me. And for that matter, I say this all the time. I wouldn't listen to any YouTuber. To be fair, when I give you something that I'm thinking about, it's really hard to follow along because I may change my mind or make alterations because I'm typically talking about my trading account. And if we wanted to discuss my set it and forget it account, I'm happy to go into detail in some of it. I did a video a while back about it. And with those stocks, what my goal is to really buy what I find are the best companies and then not pay any attention from there. Like, I'm aware of it, it's in the back of my head, but I don't have access online. Like, I can pull it up and see what's going on, but I can't make trades. I can't really do anything. I have an advisor who I kind of joke with him that if I call him up and I tell him I want to do anything and he allows me to, that I'll fire him. Now, that isn't really true, but it gives me a little solace in terms of, like, well, if I get nervous these past few weeks, which to be fair, I really didn't, which is kind of interesting because typically I would. But if I did and I thought, call them up and I'll sell some things, that the fact that I've already set up that arrangement gives me pause and has me take a moment to think, wait, that's not really my goal with this account. So I step back and I just leave it alone and I don't think about it much because what I really hope for that account is it's still around long after me. And if something happens, my wife is well able to keep up with bills, and my son as well. And that's the real goal for that. And I know it's weird because we all kind of worry about ourselves, but it makes me kind of feel good to think that it's possible that I've helped make their lives a little bit easier as well. And let's talk a little about what I see going on these past couple weeks. Because to be fair, I don't really see a market collapsing. I see a rotation going on. As I've seen the tech stocks and the Magnificent Seven have a nice big pullback, I've seen other things that have been out of favor really get stronger. Now, there's some things that got mixed up in there that had some weakness as well, like Target, which I talked about yesterday, and little asterisks. I think it's actually a good opportunity right now. I see lots of comments about these boycotts, and I think it's all kind of silly. But things like Polaris, it's been out of favor. I don't know if that's as loud to you as it is to me, so I'll give it a second if it is. But things like Polaris, it's been super out of favor. It has had a really strong end to the week. And I noticed that Hershey's really took off again. And Verizon's been chugging along. And Altria. And there's a whole group of stocks, or plethora to use some big fancy word, that are actually moving the other direction as the Magnificent Seven and the tech stocks are correcting. And if you think about that on a bigger scale, well, they've had years of moving the other way around, where these stocks have been out of favor and have really gotten undervalued, while the tech stocks have really gotten probably a little overvalued. And if I were to guess, I still feel like they might be a little overvalued. Doesn't mean I don't want to own them. I don't want to change my strategy. I don't want to make any changes on any of that. But I see a rotation, not a collapse. Now, the indices are showing a big correction, but that's because the Magnificent Seven and the tech stocks are such a large proportion of it that that makes sense. Again, I see it as a rotation more than a real collapse. I don't see anything in the economy changing. I think Trump being in the news is causing a lot of chaos and people getting nervous, which adds to that. So if you're heavy into Amazon and Google and Meta, and maybe you even have some Palantir and some of the other stuff. I think Palantir didn't. Yeah, I corrected as well. Sorry, but Nvidia, these had really large corrections, so you're going to feel some of that pain. If you're really well diversified and you have a mix of some dividend stocks and other things, you may not have even noticed that the markets were down when you looked at your portfolio, if you even look at it, which, for most people, it's a really good idea to be well diversified or have some ETFs or things. And if you don't watch the markets or find it interesting, ETFs are really a great route to go to be able to be extremely well diversified with one or two ETFs and not even have to think about it anymore. Like, what I love about investing, and that's across the spectrum of everything, is there's so many different opportunities and ways to skin the cat, or things that actually will meet everybody's goals depending on what you're looking for. If you're just looking for pure safety, there's options out there. If you're looking to try to beat the markets and crush it and potentially make a lot of money, there are ways of doing that as well. And there's everything in between too. So one of the ones I find really interesting is Bitcoin. Like, I really try to spread out amongst a bunch of things. I listen to these Bitcoin guys, and to be fair, let me start by saying there are a lot of aspects I like about Bitcoin, and I find it really interesting, and I own a little bit of it. But when I listen to some of the people on YouTube and their projections for $10 million a coin or whatever ridiculous number it is, and their extrapolations of the world and how it'll work, it makes me worry that it's probably worthless, because some of their concepts are so ridiculous and take all reality out of the equation that it's hard to agree with them, and it makes me question what Bitcoin really is. Again, I like Bitcoin. I think it's a great potential that could turn into something, but it doesn't really get used currently. Like, from what I even understand, I did a little research of what's going on in El Salvador as they've turned to like this Bitcoin nation. But it's not like you can have Bitcoin and go around and operate in it. It's not like you can go to the convenience store and pay for things in Bitcoin. It just isn't working that way yet. Now, the government's bought some Bitcoin, and there are a few places where you can use it, but it seems like there's an awful lot more places that you can't use it. And they even have some beach called Bitcoin Beach, but when I looked into that, I don't think you can necessarily use Bitcoin there. I think it's just been some marketing ploy to try to draw people into the beach. Either way, I'm going to use one of the examples of one of the zealots who was talking about how Bitcoin is going to be worth $1 trillion or whatever it is, because fiat currency is going to be worthless. And then he started kind of saying how Bitcoin is going to take over all different investment products, and real estate's likely going to collapse because it's just going to have the utility value and that's it. And people won't pay additional for anything else, so it'll be much more affordable. Here's the problem that I tried to point out, but I didn't get a response because it really bothered me. I mean, not the, but the discussion. It didn't really bother me. I find all of this stuff interesting. What bothered me is this was somebody from Canada and somebody from the US. Let's pretend for a moment you have these fiat currencies, and they're correct, and they're going to get debased, and they're going to end up having major inflation in terms of the currency, because they're the dollar, the Canadian dollar and the US dollar, is going to be continually worth less and less money. Then let's add to it that properties are only going to have utility value. So if rent today is X dollars, and let's say the utility value is only half of that, But your current currency is going to get debased and be worth pretty much nothing. Even the utility value should be extremely inflationary because the currency is going to be worth less and less money. Even if Bitcoin becomes worth more and more against the real estate and outperforms in a dramatic fashion, if 90% of the population doesn't own it, or whatever number it is, I'm just making it up because I'm guessing it's a pretty small percentage who really does, then most of the population is still going to experience that inflation, even if it's only utility value. It's not like their currency is automatically going to be transformed into Bitcoin, and they're going to have had the growth of Bitcoin when they weren't invested in it. So there's this disconnect of the inflation and how it works of like it's this utopia of Bitcoin that's going to solve everybody's problems, but this lack of logic of how they'll be able to pay for things if they don't own the Bitcoin currently. And when I tried to point that out, it was essentially just some answer of like, you're missing the point that real estate will only have utility value. The other problem with that is if that were true, it would be socialism of sorts, or even more so, where properties wouldn't be unique or personalized. If it's utility value, why would people have nicer homes? There's no reason to. It would essentially be a bedroom, a bathroom, and maybe even a communal cooking or area to eat because it's just utility. And that's not the case. People like to make their homes nice. They put in nicer kitchen equipment. They buy much larger spaces than they really need. I mean, I'm not trying, but this is not utility. This is want. This is, extra that is totally unnecessary. And don't get me wrong, I'm really happy about it and I like our yard and whatever else, but this is not utility value. And if it was just the price of utility, don't you think there'd be people outbidding each other on the things that are nicer than just utility value? And I don't mean to be so harsh on it, but it wasn't that one thing. It's just a question. And you guys tell me what you think. Like, really, I like the conversation. It gets my brain going. That's kind of what I like to do, some of this stuff. But explain what you guys think. Like, I still think Bitcoin is legitimate and it's going to continue to be something, but the ones like this who truly believe, there just seems to be some disconnect on certain levels that make me start doubting like what it would be because they're so unrealistic that to me it doesn't make any sense. Again, you guys tell me what you think. Like, and it's not that one episode. It's lots of things that people talk about that just seem to get totally ridiculous in this belief that it's going to a trillion and it's going to replace all forms of investment, especially because there's really no way to value it. Like, you value it based on the price it's trading at, but it doesn't have earnings, it has no intrinsic, it is nothing. I totally understand that. But in a lot of ways, like when I look at gold, it actually makes more sense to me than gold because it's much more easily divisible. It's easier to transport. Like a lot of it does make sense to me. I don't really see us reverting to gold. And I also like the fact that if a nation decides that they need to take capital away, it seems like it's probably much harder to take away Bitcoin than it is to just reach into your banks and do things like that, to show a little of my paranoid side. Now, I also promised you I would tell you what my favorite stock is right now, and I'm not going to hesitate or, well, Google is by far my favorite stock right now, and I'll tell you why. First of all, forward PE seems to be really reasonable for a tech stock, a Magnificent Seven, a really good growth company that is actually started paying a dividend. So I see a route that they'll probably continue to grow that dividend. But here's what I love best. Part of why it's so discounted is people are discounting search. And search is continuing to grow, and it's growing at a rapid pace, or at least, you know, a fast enough pace that it's close to what the PE ratio is. Then you add on all the other stuff like YouTube, and I think Waymo is a free call option. But the point that I'm getting at with the search is It's getting discounted because people think that ChatGPT and Facebook and Amazon are going to start competing in a way that it's going to hurt their revenues. That's possible, but it hasn't happened. And making a bet that it will happen may not be the best bet, especially because they have Gemini and other things on their end to help continue to grow that space. And in the meantime, it currently is growing. So to get out of it, because it's possible in the future they'll have some competitors that'll eat into their market share, seems like a big mistake to me and just seems like it's on sale. Now, of course, all of those things could come to fruition. It could happen. It's possible that they lose the market share. But at least for now, that isn't what's happening. And I would want to place my bet on what's actually happening, which is search is continuing to grow. And so are a lot of their other divisions. And Google is just such a great company to be able to get it at a discounted price. And then the other thing I noticed as a trader is when the market was really correcting, Google was having a tough time selling off. Now, I know that sounds kind of stupid, but meaning it wasn't getting the same follow through that Amazon and Meta and Microsoft and some of them were. Like it kind of got stuck below 170, and I mean just below that price, and couldn't really push any lower as the market was continuing to sell off. I hope and I think that means that the sellers are a little bit exhausted. It's already run its course to the downside, even when there was more downside pressure on the market and that division of that sector of the market, which means if things start to reverse, it may be not a lot of selling and not a lot of downside pressure on the way back up, which I think really could give Google an opportunity to be making new highs in a rather short amount of time. Again, not financial advice. I'm not telling you that's what's going to happen. It's just kind of all those things coming together in my mind for what I saw. And it looked really good to me. The other ones felt a little more scary. Amazon felt really scary. And sometimes, like, if it catches itself, maybe that means Amazon is the best decision to make or NVIDIA. The ones that kind of look scary and really sell off hard, if it goes back to risk on, those things can also outperform to the upside too, which is why I say, take it with a grain of salt, do your own research and the other things. The three things I picked up this week were Amazon, Google, and Nvidia, but that's as a trade. It looked like a good bottom to me, and if it continues to the downside, I'd probably cover that trade. And at some point, even myself included, I might look to take risk off and move into the dividend payers and not try to have the ones that have more risk and more potential upside. Now, again, not my set it and forget it. Those are set up the way they're set up, and I'm totally comfortable with how they're invested and not making any changes in that account. So, just my thoughts on it. Anyway, I got to take my son to the movies. He's meeting his buddies. He got into the high school he was hoping to, and so did they, and they're going out to celebrate. Otherwise, I'd ramble a little bit more because it's a really beautiful day and I'm enjoying my Sunday. I hope you all didn't have a really rough week. I hope this coming week is awesome. I hope you all had a nice weekend. Oh, and I got a couple of vacations planned, so I'm super excited about those. Maybe I can do some videos while I'm away. We're going to Mexico City for spring break. I've never been. It looks awesome when I watch the YouTubes on Mexico City. And this summer, we have a big trip to Asia. We're going to be going to Japan. We're going to go to China. We're going to go to South Korea. And we're also going to try to get to Thailand as well. So I'm super excited for that trip as well. I chat every now and then with, I'll call him my buddy Lance, who I like hearing from time to time. He gets a lot of travel into, and I love it. And back to the beginning of the video, that's one of the freedoms that trying to save and put away has done for me. It's created opportunity for me to be able to do these things at the end of my life. And I'm not at the end of my life. I hope that didn't sound the wrong way. But as I get older, that are really attractive and cool to be able to do. And I love to travel and get to spend time doing that. So, anyway, again, thumbs up. Do me a favor, hit that like button, smash the subscribe. I did it backwards again. And make some comments in the comment section. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.